Hello everyone, this is the CircuitPython weekly meeting for March 17th, 2025. It's the time of the week where we get together to talk about all things CircuitPython. I'm Scott and I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python designed on running on tiny computers called microcontrollers. CircuitPython development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so if you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from them. From Adafruit.com. This meeting is hosted on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to adafru.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting typically happens Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, except when it coincides with the U.S. holiday. In the notes doc, there's a U.S. holiday, I should say, where people take it off. Today is St. Patrick's Day here in the US. In the notes doc, there's a link to a calendar you can view online and add to your favorite calendar app. We also send notifications about upcoming meetings via Discord. If you'd like to receive these notifications, ask us to add you to the CircuitPythonistas Discord role. There is a shared notes doc that accompanies the meeting and the recording. You can contribute to the document beforehand. The final notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use the doc to skip around and view the parts of the video that interest you most. The meeting tends to run 30 to 60 minutes, and after each meeting, we post the link for the next week's meeting's notes doc to the CircuitPython dev channel on the Adafruit Discord. Look in the pinned messages to find the latest one there. If you wish to participate but cannot attend, you can leave hug reports and status updates and in the weeds in the document for us to read during the meeting. Basically, this meeting is held in 5 parts. First, we have the community news. It's a quick look at all things CircuitPython and Python on hardware in the community. It's a chosen set of items from our Python on Microcontrollers newsletter. The second part is the state of CircuitPython libraries in Blinka. It's a quantitative overview of the entire project. It's a chance to look at the project by the numbers, separate from our status updates. The mic is kind of low. I feel like I need to turn it up a little bit, but I just muted it instead, so I'm just going to go with it. The third part is hug reports. It's an opportunity to highlight the good things folks are doing, taking the time to recognize the awesome folks in our community. Fourth is status updates. It's an opportunity to talk about what we've been working on in the past week and what we're planning on doing in the next week. And then the last part is called In the Weeds. It's an opportunity for more long-form discussions. These discussions can come out of status updates or be something you've identified ahead of time as too long for status updates. And with that, I will switch to the meeting notes doc and read community news. After I take a time code. So, community news. One major one here is CircuitPython.org to get an update. So CircuitPython.org will be updated soon with a fresh new look. CircuitPython has come a long way since the original landing page for CircuitPython.org was created. The new design will focus on what is possible with CircuitPython, and there will be a new Made with CircuitPython badge that will show off the wide range of projects all created with CircuitPython. Each time the page is loaded, it will show off different projects throughout the page. The new design will do a better job of explaining CircuitPython to those who are new to the language. It also does a better job of organizing the most used aspects of the site, like individual board pages. This new design is already complete and is under review, so expect to see this very soon. And thank you for Tyler and Justin who did that. Next up, newsletter details. So that's just a quick peek. The Python on Microcontrollers weekly newsletter is a CircuitPython community-run newsletter emailed every Monday. The complete archives are available at adafruitdaily.com/category/CircuitPython. It highlights the latest Python on hardware-related news from around the web, including CircuitPython, Python, and MicroPython. To contribute your own news or project, edit next week's draft on GitHub and submit a pull request with changes. You may also email cpnews@adafruit.com or tag a post with CircuitPython on Mastodon, Blue Sky, or X. And that's it for community news this week. Next up, we have State of CircuitPython Libraries in Blinka. This is a statistical overview of how the larger project is doing with kind of sub-statistics for the different core or major parts of CircuitPython. So overall, we had 24 pull requests merged from 13 different authors, which is awesome. Some names that are not super familiar to me are Core I99, Frank Pett, and Vladek are all relatively new to me. We had 9 reviewers, so thank you to those reviewers as well. We had 11 closed issues by 6 people and 8 opened by 7 people. So a good number of folks involved on the issue side as well. Next up, I'll read for the core. This is the C code that runs CircuitPython on tiny microcontroller devices. For the core, we had 9 pull requests merged from 5 different authors, including ADCC, W. Tamura, and Neradoc, and FoamyGuy are all kind of infrequent core contributors. Thanks to them, and thanks to Neradoc for a review as well. There are currently 23 open pull requests, so we're just shy of our 25 kind of target to be under, which is the single page limit for GitHub. Issues-wise, we had 1 closed issue by 1 person and 1 open by 1 person, so we're net even for a total of 768 open issues. We use milestones to track the prioritization for Adafruit funded work. We currently have 18 open issues for 10.0, which where it's not currently being worked on, but will be soon. 9.2x is kind of like the highest priority bucket here, and there are 13 open issues there, and 59 on 9xx. I suspect that we are going to do a kind of issue triage this week, so expect these numbers to be different in next week's meeting. There's 1 issue not assigned a milestone, so we do have a little triage to do as well. And with that, let's ask FoamyGuy to give us the numbers for libraries.
This section covers all CircuitPython libraries, which are split into 2 main halves, so to speak. We have all the Adafruit libraries in the Adafruit library bundle, and we also have the community library bundle. Right now, we have 354 libraries in the Adafruit bundle and 155 in the community library bundle, which gives a total of 509. For the Adafruit bundle, all of these libraries can be found on GitHub under names like Adafruit underscore CircuitPython underscore, and then the name of whatever library it is. Across all of those Adafruit libraries this week, we had 6 pull requests merged by 5 different authors. I think all of these names have been here before, but perhaps not so frequently, so I'll say thanks this week to Mikey Sklar, Bablock B, Tyeth, and Vladek, and myself. We had 5 reviewers as well, thanks to Dan, Liz, Tyeth, Brent, and myself for some reviews this week. And of the pull requests that got merged, there were a couple in mini MQTT up around the 1 month old point, and then as usual, the newest ones were down at 1 day. That leaves us at the end of the week with 47 open pull requests. The oldest one of those is a draft at 942 days. The newest one is 2 days. And issues-wise, over the past week, we had 5 issues closed by 4 people, with 5 issues opened up by 4 people as well. So they net the same on issues this week. That leaves us with 697 open issues across all those libraries, and there are 3 of those right now that are labeled as good first issues, which you could find listed over at circuitpython.org/contributing, which is the website where you should head if you want to get involved with CircuitPython. Usually the first place that we point folks towards is on that page, circuitpython.org/contributing. The first thing you see when you open it is a list of open PRs. These are links over to GitHub to pull requests that have been submitted, and they are waiting for someone to come along and review or take a look at the code that has been proposed. So one of the first things we point folks who want to get involved to is doing reviews like that, so you can find something in that list on the page that you either have an interest in, or that you have the hardware for, or that you feel like you might want to look at some code surrounding. Click through to GitHub, take a look at the actual code that's in that PR. If you do have the hardware, you can run it on there, and then leave a comment on GitHub letting us know what you found when you looked over the code. And if you did have hardware, let us know how it went when you ran it as well. If you get comfortable with that process and would like to level up to leave official reviews there on GitHub, we can work with you on making that happen as well. And then if you would like to start getting your hands dirty actually contributing changes of your own rather than reviewing, you can also find a means to do that on the same page, circuitpython.org/contributing. At the top, there are some navigation links. If you click over to issues, you'll find a similar page, which is a list of links over to GitHub, but these links represent issues. They do not have a proposed change yet. They're waiting for a person who would like to come along and actually make that change, solve the issue, whether it's fixing a bug, adding a new feature or enhancement or something like that. We have guides to contributing with CircuitPython using Git and GitHub. So if you would like to contribute but are having trouble with any part of the process, be it version control or any of the actions checks or anything like that, we can point you to the guide, which has all the information in it. We also have folks around on Discord who are more than happy to help out. So if that is you, you're trying to contribute and you're having trouble, come say hi to us on Discord. Let us know what you're working on and what kind of trouble you're having, and we definitely will be happy to help you out. And then I will leave you this week with a couple of updates over in the community bundle. We had a new library, CircuitPython iPerf, and then an update to a T-MIDI library from ToddBot. So check that stuff out if you are interested. That's what we've got for libraries.
Thank you so much. So these are statistics for, let me take a time code. These are statistics for the Blinka, which is the conversion layer. This provides the CircuitPython API on single board computers like the Raspberry Pi. The stats for Blinka, there were 9 pull requests merged from 5 different authors, which is more than I'm used to. 3 reviewers, Jepler, Maker Melissa, and FoamyGuy. There are currently 24 open pull requests. This is across a variety of Blinka-related repos, including Blinka BLE.io, Blinka Display.io, Platform, Detect, and the like. So I think that number has gone up because I think we're actually pulling from more repositories this week. Issues-wise, for Blinka, we had 5 closed issues by 1 person and 2 open by 2 people, so net down 3. There are 151 open issues with the link there to Adafruit Blinka issues. And total number of supported boards is 146. And Jepler confirmed that the RP1 PIO-related repos like PIO matter are now included in the reports as well. So that's a sub-repository that gives RGB matrix support to the Pi 5 in particular. All right, thank you, Jeff, for that confirmation. Next up, we have Hug Reports. This is a chance for us to talk subjectively about how things are going, specifically thanking folks for things that they've been working on in the community. It's a great way to both give folks credit and also to reinforce to each other what we value as a community. So I will start and then we'll go down the list. If people are marked as text only or missing, I will read. Otherwise, I will delegate to you to speak up on your behalf. So first, for me, 2 hugs. First to Blitz City DIY for hosting last week. I was supposed to, but I was sick the night before, so and in bed during the meeting. So thank you, Liz, Blitz City DIY, for covering for me. And then also a hug report to Lady Ada for documenting her LLM coding assistant journey. I tried Claude Code based on kind of knowing that she had been trying it, and I tried it on Friday, and it's kind of awesome. So thank you to Lady Ada for experimenting with those things and documenting them in an open way too. All right, next up we have notes from Anecdata, who has a hug for ADCC for digging into some PIO UART issues. And next up is Dan.
Thanks to TAC, who works for Adafruit, who's been working with me on getting Nina FW firmware for Airlift working, and he got it running on ESP32C6, and he got Bluetooth to work. And I'll have more about that in status reports. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Next up is FoamyGuy.
All right, thanks. My first hug is for you, Scott. Thanks for looking into new ways to load fonts. I'm excited about some of the work you're doing. Thanks to Michael Pokusa and Tyeth, both for help over the weekend during my stream with some Bluefruit Connect packet conversion and formats, and byte manipulation in JavaScript, which is not my forte. Help from both of those folks. Thanks to Jeff for continued help and improvements on POMatter library. And then lastly, I just wanted to shout out Maker Melissa, who showed a really cool CircuitPython implementation of Chip's challenge last week on Show and Tell. I did not get to catch it live, but I watched the video and I thought that was really, really cool. Thanks, Melissa. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, FoamyGuy. I want to go look at it now, too. Next up is Jepler.
Hello. I want to thank Tim and JP for testing PIOMatter changes and finding problems. And to explain the joke I typed into the chat, PIOMatter is n steps forward and XOR 1 steps backward right now. So it just feels like you're more or less staying in place. Let's see. And then also another for Tim, and this time for Liz. Y'all have taken on the task of documenting some of the emulator work I'm doing on Fruit Jam. So I will do a brain dump for you and try and get you all the relevant information. And that's what I've got right now.
Thank you, Jepler. Last up, I see that Mark is probably missing the meeting, so I'm going to give Mark just a chance to speak up. Otherwise, I'll read for them. All right, I'll read for Mark, who says, a hug to Jepler for a discussion on fixed point and integer/floating point math and audio processing that sent me down a rabbit hole I had not thought about before. No worries, Mark. I got you covered. Okay, and that's it for Hug Reports. Thank you, everybody. Next up is status updates. Status updates, we do as a similar round robin, which I guess I didn't explain before, but I will start and we'll go through the list of folks in the notes doc. This time we want to hear about what people have been working on and what they plan on working on in the coming week. And I'm realizing I didn't add that all, so I will supplement mine. So for me, I was supposed to be gone last week because we had a Japan trip on Tuesday, but I got a stomach bug on Sunday night and we chose to cancel it. Instead, we're going to California on Friday of this week. So I will be out Friday and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. I'm back on Thursday. We're going to Legoland because we have 2 small children and this will be simpler. At the end of last week, I was working to add LVGL font binary format loading support to the bitmap font library. It looks very useful. It's a slimmed down version of like TrueType sort of stuff. Very optimized for embedded, so it looks great. I have a branch. I thought I made a PR, but apparently I didn't, so I got to do that today. And I'm also using, I'm working on adding core support to CircuitPython for loading glyphs, allowing us to load glyphs into the terminal from the file system. So if you have like CircuitPy/fonts/terminal.bin or lvbit font bin, it'll be able to search there for characters such as emoji and other languages with large alphabets like Korean and Japanese. We could support via a font on the CircuitPy drive instead of having to make the image, the CircuitPython binary image itself larger. I'm using Cloud Code to get a lot of it in place, which is really cool. Especially I'm able to say like, hey, take a look at the Python library I just did and like now load it using C code instead. Like that's the sort of thing that LLMs are quite good at. So that's been a boost. And then what's missing from here is I did do SD card auto mounting and making SD cards available over the USB mass storage. That is in pull request. So I want to, it'd be great if people would give that a shot as well. Yeah, that's it for me. Next up, let's go to Dan.
Okay, so I've been spending the vast majority of my time working on updating the Nina FW firmware used on Airlift coprocessors. So this isn't CircuitPython itself, but it's something that's used a lot on CircuitPython boards like the Pi portal. So the idea is to bring it to a newer version of ESP-IDF, which is the underlying software that we use on Espressif chips. So this has gone pretty smoothly, more smoothly than I even thought. because we were able to use a lot of Nina FW under the covers is kind of an Arduino program or derived from Arduino software. And so it turns out that there's been a lot of improvement in the Wi-Fi libraries in the Arduino ESP32 board support package. And we can use those libraries instead of some special purpose libraries that were already in the old version of Nina FW. So I deleted a lot of code and had it call these libraries instead. In the past few days, I've gotten HTTPS working. There were some problems with that before. And with TAC also, we got it working on ESP32C6s, not just ESP32. So that's a potential, another potential airlift chip or coprocessor, and it's cheaper even than the ESP32. So that's very interesting. TAC, as I mentioned, TAC just reported that he got Bluetooth working here. And my major task left on this is to get a pin there's a pin that says when a packet has been received, and that's not working right now. It's not actually used by CircuitPython, but it is used by the Arduino library that uses Nina FW. So I'm going to work on that. And though I've said it like every week for the past 3 weeks, I still want to release CircuitPython 9.2.5 early this week. Okay.
And I was thinking we'll probably want a 9.3 after that because I'm bringing some other bigger changes.
That might be interesting. Yeah. Good.
Or maybe even 10.
Maybe even 10, right?
Maybe we should rip the 10 Band-Aid off.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
We can start betas or something. Yeah.
Yes, we could.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, thanks, Dan. Next up is ADCC.
Scott. Well, I've been having way too much fun noodling around with RP2350 clocks and timing. I was able to get some basic timing tests running at 240 megahertz, and I know there's a whole lot more overclocking headroom on that part. I was also able to get pseudostatic RAM quad SPI clocked up to 120 megahertz, and that involved discovering a little bit of secret sauce involving toggling on a PSRAM wrap boundary mode switch inside the PSRAM chip. 240 megahertz just happens to be an integral multiple of 48 megahertz, and that's potentially freeing up the USB phase lock loop for use as an HSTX clock, allowing accurate pixel clock generation. And that would also work at 144 megahertz. So we could stay inside the RP2350's documented clock limits and still free up that PLL. Having sysclock at a multiple of 48 megahertz would also benefit Pico, PIO, USB, in full speed mode by avoiding the jitter inherent in using a fractional divisor for the PIO clock. And that's what I got.
Thank you, ADCC. Next up is FoamyGuy.
Finished up the guide for a snake game that runs on the RP2350 last week. I have been doing some experimenting on CircuitPython with multiple mice. So I have a basic example that lets you move a couple of mice around. And then I did make a version of my next bullet point here, which is a memory game. I made one that uses multiple mice, although I think we're going to switch that one up to a single mice. And then there is another game that I'll look into for the dual mice. Next one. I have been trying out the improvements to PO Matter and helping troubleshoot issues with JP, and I also, separate from those issues and the improvements, have been working on testing out code for a new example. Right, it's not so much code, but just process, I suppose, for a new example that will show you how to pull video from a USB adapter and send it to the channel. So I can feed in my Nintendo Switch, but obviously this would be or HDMI compatible output. Send that to your panels. Seconding what was mentioned about Claude Code, I was tinkering with that a little bit over the weekend as well. I got some help from it to convert the Arduino matrix example that Anne did a couple of weeks back over to CircuitPython, even having it use the new tile palette mapper module, which brand new that I was working on the last couple of weeks. And it was able to take a little snippet of how to use that new module and old Arduino code and spit out some working CircuitPython code. I made some tweaks to get the refreshing to work a bit better. Tinkered it a little bit further beyond sense, but the thing that came out first was actually pretty darn close. Impressed as well with how it did. And then lastly for me this week, I started implementing an HTTP server script that runs, I've been testing it on a Pico W, but any CircuitPython device with native Wi-Fi, and what it is doing is running that server and making a WebSocket connection with a web page, which can then send Bluefruit Connect compatible packets over to the microcontroller from either your PC or a mobile phone is the ultimate goal here, and this will eventually let us do all the same sorts of functionality that we get with the Bluefruit mobile app, but we will be able to do over Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth. So there could be either a second app or there can just be a web page of similar functionality that is found in that app, which I have been up to.
Thank you, FoamyGuy. All right, next up is Jetblur.
Hello. So once again, not a whole lot of CircuitPython activity. I did update PIO matter to improve temporal dithering, and I tried to remove a workaround, but it turns out that workaround is still needed. So there's another pull request open to put that back. Over in Pico SDK land, I'm working on making the Pico Mac emulator work as well as possible on the FruitJam RP2350. At this point, it's able to boot up, and you see an image on your digital monitor, and you get mouse and keyboard input. So it's doing pretty good, but there's a list of 5 or 6 more things that we'd like to get working. And last up, I just want to mention it's 2 weeks before my big trip, so I'm getting a little bit antsy about that. Looking forward to it, but also it feels like a lot at some moments to get done everything I would like to get done before then. And of course, I'll miss y'all while I'm traveling.
So that means next week is your last week, Jeff?
Yeah, so this week and next week are full weeks for me, and my last regular day is the 28th, next Friday.
Okay. Awesome. That's super exciting. I hope you have a great trip. And you will be missed as a core dev as well. Okay, in the weeds, this is the last section that we've got for today. This is a section for us to have any longer form discussions that we need to have or want to have. The way it works is folks add topics to the document with their username. So I'm going to kick it over to Tyeth for a couple of different topics.
Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me. Apologies if the Bluetooth cuts out or I cough and splutter, I'm a bit unwell at the moment. So the first one is frozen libraries, and effectively there's been some changes in Wi-Fi manager related things and other such things that are kind of base dependencies for some of the other libraries. They're unfortunately frozen into the build, so most people are stuck on them. They don't realize that you've got to put the library in root. And it's kind of discouraged to chuck all the libraries in root because that would be my instant solution, just forget about lib. Maybe we could make CircUp aware of frozen modules and therefore how to place them correctly and whether they need updating. But a lot of users don't use CircUp, and it seems maybe easiest is to have, as part of the weekly report, how many frozen modules have been updated since last release, and we could do a patch release that week or something. Dan just put in a comment that he's going to do an update for 9.2.5, which will update all the frozen modules. But it just occurs to me that it's something that happens quite regularly and easily slips through the net and affects the most basic of users, so maybe worth thinking about.
Yep, the other
yeah, go on.
The other thing, syspath is actually mutable. So you can actually make it prefer lib over frozen.
I'd be grateful for that. I just don't want to rock the boat too much, as it were. So whatever seems best in the community's spirit, I'm happy with. I just think
and Jetblur,
disadvantage.
Jetblur saying, do we have a reminder why frozen comes before lib? No, I don't remember.
No, but I think if there is an issue I've raised years ago about this, because you pointed me to the switching path, sister path, and effectively something's bolted in first and then syspath listened to or something. I can't remember it. You'll know more.
There's like a .frozen placeholder for it.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. So that's if you print out syspath, you should see a .frozen or whatever in it.
Got you. And that placeholder will always be just replaced with them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when
So
it'll
you
look.
could hypothetically put the frozen placeholder at the end and it wouldn't be a problem.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
so I was taking a quick look just based on keyword search, and this is the issue that I found. So I think on our really resource constrained boards like the CircuitPython or the Circuit Playground Express, using it in this order means that if a user puts something in lib, it's not used. And the reason that that's good is importing something from frozen used less RAM than importing something from lib.
Of
Right.
course.
And
That
I
makes
think
a
that's
lot
the
of sense.
reason that it is the way it is right now, but that's less helpful on all our modern boards, which for the most part have plenty of RAM. So we might consider changing it, but I don't know the impact of that on older boards exactly. But I think that's the why. And I was wrong that it was Scott's rationale. It was based on Kattni's testing of what did and didn't work way back in 2018. So it might be something that we could revisit.
That's cool. I mean, that settles it for me. It's probably just worth revisiting in that case. But equally, I know it's going to be a problem over the next few little bumps and releases of various libraries. There was a Wi-Fi manager problem today in Discord, and it just brought it back up for me. So I thought I'd bring it up.
What board is that on? Because
They didn't even say it was just something that's using a frozen in library.
I mean, between it hasn't been true that like the changes there aren't actually interesting. I'm not sure there are that many interesting changes after 94 in the Frozens.
I think you might be right. It's mainly I remember connection manager coming in and there being a change in Wi-Fi manager naming or something like that. Those are the two I'm
Yeah.
only really conscious
So
of.
we always just tell people, hey, you just need to update to the latest. Try that first before anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean just to update the core version of CircuitPython?
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess my point was to be also that like we shouldn't be using frozen on non-RAM constrained boards
Yeah, which is a
for
really
this
good point.
reason. Like frozen is only something we should use when we need that extra memory space.
I wonder if there's any distinction to be made between the MPY and PY versions of libraries in some sense of fine, if you're on MPY, you obviously care about RAM. We could take that into account for you. I'm not suggesting that's a good idea, just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So if we part that one for now, the other thing
Yep.
is rough. Effectively, we used to rely on Pylint. I'm not really familiar with rough, but I've had a lot of discussion with peers around it. And it seems there's a problem where our rules aren't appropriate yet. And there were some bugs that we found in libraries that just hadn't been noticed by rough. So then there's the whole problem of how to update rough rules and cookie cutter projects and whether cookie cutter could have an update function, whether we can push things to people's projects, etc., etc. The other thing that's crucially missing was that MicroPython didn't have a rule set and now does. So we could depend on that as a starting point and maybe add our rules back on top. And the other thing is there's an extends feature, which I don't know if it used to exist or not. So we don't have to replace all the rules. We can add ours as such. And we seem to have replaced all the basic rule groups. So it might be wise to turn them back on and see what breaks, etc. I know no one's responsible for rough, and no one appears to be the full expert on it. So it's kind of a community. What should we do more than anything else?
Good question.
I can trim up a bit because I have done some of changeovers to rough in the libraries. Essentially what I do is like if I'm in the library doing something else, happen to think of it, trying to rush to get something else, then I'll also do the rough conversion at the same time. And I have just been copying that same rough config that we started with, which was kind of just a copy, as I understand it, of the Pylint. I would say I'm pretty open to changing the rules. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on what the rules are. Bearing in mind, like we don't necessarily want to break all the actions at once. So if we want to update the rules, then we probably will have to do something somewhat manual to go and fix anything that does break rather than
Yeah.
that all.
I mean, it kind of feels like we won't be able to update people's rules and repos for community libraries. It's not our job to do
Right,
so. We
right.
can offer a facility to do so, but we can't enforce it.
Right, definitely. Yeah, and I meant, to be clear too, I meant if we wanted to update the rules in the Adafruit libraries, we could use Adabot
Yeah.
to go through and do all of those updates.
But it will
I
still
don't
be
necessarily think
largely
it would,
catastrophic.
yeah, I don't think we would want to make changes that are likely to cause actions to fail in every library that way.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think I was just a bit surprised that when I looked at the default rules, there's a set of rules called E, a set called F, and a set called I, and they're the basic default included ones. And we've got all of them turned off and just added in our pilot specific ones we were aware of. But that means we're not catching the basics like a lack of import, an undefined variable, etc. So
Right.
hopefully we can just add some of these basics back in, and equally our rules prioritize, turn off a few we don't want. But it's not a small mission, so I don't feel like I want to volunteer myself or you, Tim. Just more raise awareness.
Yeah, I would say
It would be good to get Justin's feedback on this too, right? He created that.
Yeah, and then I would say probably the best way to go towards that is start with cookie cutter, because then at least all the new libraries that get created will have the new set. Then maybe we can open 1 or 2 PRs against a couple of the libraries that do have the old, like our current rule set, and we can try with the new set and see. But try what you're saying, where we undo our kind of suppressing of those basic ones and see how much stuff actually gets flagged.
That makes sense.
But cookie cutter is always like a good first place to go, because that means any libraries whatever the new add-on is. Also, the PR in cookie is a good place to discuss what we ultimately want. In terms of updating other people's libraries, I don't necessarily know too much about cookie cutter, but my inclination is that I have anything like that. The way I understand cookie cutter, it's mostly like can populate the templates for you.
Yeah, it's a skeleton template. I was more thinking that if Cookie Cutter knew it was a Cookie Cutter project, you could call Cookie Cutter update and it would just pull the latest CI and rules file effectively. Not change any of your projects, just the GitHub CI folder and the rough rules.
I think there's an issue on Cookie Cutter to do that. I would look and see what their discussion has been there.
Okay, that's cool. The other one
It's
worth
not a
mentioning
project
is...
that we did.
Oh, it's not. No, I thought we'd done a Cookie Cutter sort of extension to it. I didn't realize it didn't have an update already. But yeah, that makes sense. That's quite a big lift then. The other thing worth mentioning is a while ago on Adabot, I was trying to do something horrific across all the Arduino repos. So I did add something to raise PRs, effectively altering CI jobs, etc. Raise the PRs and then check if they pass CI, so that we don't merge anything that's broken, etc. And it would successfully allow you to merge the things that did pass, keep a running list of jobs, etc., etc. Might be worth revisiting or talking about in the future if we are going down this route.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Actually, yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, what we have for Adabot for CircuitPython is it can essentially make. I don't know if it has the ability to make PRs and check the results. I don't. That sounds like all the ones that are not problematic done automatically.
Does it sound like a fair plan then to look at the cookie cutter update as one issue and our rough rules as a separate in our cookie cutter project issue, but still related?
Yeah, I think it would be good to reduce the amount of custom ruling we have for rough, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because then we'll get like the new checks automatically.
Wicked.
Thank you.
The only other thing is that there was talk of having a base set of rules in the cookie cutter repo, and we'd effectively want users of community library maintainers to pull that new base set with the cookie cutter update. So they can have their own project rules that extend our base rules, and they can update our base rules every so often. That's the grand scheme of it anyway. And thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks, Ty. All right, let's wrap up. Take one last time code. So this has been the CircuitPython weekly meeting for March 17th, 2025. Thank you to everybody who participated. If you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, and those of us that work on CircuitPython, consider purchasing from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com or through resellers that carry Adafruit stuff. That's good too. The video of this meeting will be released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit. The podcast will be available on major podcast services. It will also be featured in the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. You can subscribe to that by going to adafruitdaily.com, checking the Python for Microcontrollers box. The next meeting will be held next Monday as usual at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. The meeting is held on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. To be notified about the meeting and any changes to the time or day, you can ask to be added to the @CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.